The mahogany-paneled conference room at Mitchell, Stone and Associates smelled of old money and older grudges. I sat in the furthest chair from the head of the table, watching my cousins arrange themselves like they were posing for a family portrait that would hang in some country club. Derek, 35 and still living off his trust fund, had claimed the seat closest to Mr. Mitchell, our grandmother's lawyer. Beside him sat his sister Vanessa, whose idea of work was managing her Instagram account and planning charity galas she never actually organized. My Aunt Patricia, Derek and Vanessa's mother, perched at Derek's right side like a hawk eyeing prey. She'd been circling Grandma Rose's fortune for years, dropping hints about responsible family members and bloodline obligations. Across from them, my other cousins, Bradley and his twin sister Madison, whispered conspiratorially, occasionally glancing my way with barely concealed disdain. I'm Sophia Martinez, the family disappointment. At 28, I'm the granddaughter who chose social work over business school, who drives a 10-year-old Honda instead of leasing luxury cars, who lives in a modest apartment instead of the family compound. The one who spent every summer with Grandma Rose while the others were at expensive camps or European vacations they posted about endlessly. Well, Derek said, straightening his designer tie as I took my seat. Look who decided to show up after all. Vanessa didn't even look up from her phone. I'm surprised you could get time off from, what is it you do again? Work with homeless people. Community development, I replied quietly, though I knew the distinction was lost on them. They'd never bothered to learn what my job actually entailed, how I'd spent years building programs that transformed entire neighborhoods, how my nonprofit had become a model for urban renewal initiatives across the country. Right, Bradley chimed in, his voice dripping with condescension. Very noble. I'm sure Grandma Rose appreciated your charitable spirit. Mr. Mitchell, a distinguished man in his 70s who'd handled the Whitmore family legal affairs for decades, cleared his throat and arranged his papers. The Whitmore name carried weight in this city, old shipping money that had evolved into real estate investments and influence. Grandma Rose had been the family matriarch, the one who held everything together after Grandpa died. Thank you all for coming, Mr. Mitchell began, his voice carrying the gravity of the moment. As you know, we're here for the reading of Rose Elizabeth Whitmore's last will and testament. Aunt Patricia leaned forward eagerly. Yes, well, we all know Rose was very practical about family obligations. I'm sure she's made sensible arrangements. Derek nodded smugly. Grandma always liked us better, he said, shooting me a look. Don't get your hopes up, Sophia. This is about family legacy, not whatever it is you've been doing. I said nothing, remembering instead the quiet afternoons I'd spent with Grandma Rose in her garden, listening to her stories about building the family business. How she taught me to invest my small savings, how she'd quietly funded my college education when my parents couldn't afford it, how she'd been the only one who believed in my work. The estate, Mr. Mitchell continued, includes properties, investments, business holdings and liquid assets totaling approximately $50 million. The room fell silent. Even with the family's wealth, $50 million was substantial. Vanessa finally looked up from her phone. Bradley and Madison exchanged glances. Derek's smirk grew wider. Now, Mr. Mitchell said, adjusting his glasses, Mrs. Whitmore was very specific about her wishes. She spent considerable time ensuring her will reflected not just her family relationships, but her values and observations about each of you. Aunt Patricia sat up straighter. Of course, Rose always valued family tradition and responsibility. Indeed she did, Mr. Mitchell agreed, but something in his tone made me look up. Which brings me to the primary bequest. The entire estate, properties, business holdings, investments, trust funds, everything, goes to... The room held its breath. Derek's hand was already reaching for his phone, probably to call his financial advisor. Vanessa had that satisfied smile she wore when she got exactly what she expected. Goes to Sophia Elena Martinez. The silence that followed was deafening. Derek's phone clattered to the table. Vanessa's mouth fell open, her perfect lipstick making a small "oh" of shock. Bradley's face went through several colors before settling on purple. Madison looked like she might faint. Aunt Patricia stood up so quickly her chair nearly toppled backward. That's impossible, she sputtered. Rose would never, she's not even a Whitmore. She's my granddaughter, Mr. Mitchell said calmly, reading from the will. And according to Mrs. Whitmore's written statement, the only one who understood what family truly means. Derek found his voice first, though it came out as a croak. This is a mistake. She was probably confused, not thinking clearly. Mrs. Whitmore was in perfect health and sound mind when she updated this will 6 months ago, Mr. Mitchell replied. She also left individual letters for each of you. He began distributing sealed envelopes. Mine was thick cream-colored paper with my name written in Grandma Rose's careful script. The others received thinner envelopes. I could hear Vanessa tearing hers open immediately. This can't be right, she said, reading frantically. She says I never visited unless I needed money. Bradley was reading his letter, his face growing paler. She knew about the gambling debts. Madison's hands trembled as she read. The rehab. She knew about the prescription pills. Derek's letter remained unopened in his shaking hands. Aunt Patricia had sat back down heavily, staring at her envelope like it might contain a bomb. I opened mine slowly. Grandma Rose's voice seemed to speak from the pages. My dearest Sophia. If you're reading this, then my family has finally learned what I've known for years. That true worth isn't measured in bank accounts or social connections, but in character and compassion. While your cousins were learning to spend money, you were learning to help people. While they were networking at country clubs, you were building community centers. While they saw our family name as an entitlement, you saw it as a responsibility. The others will be shocked, but you won't be. You've always known this day would come. Not because I promised you anything, but because you were the only one who never asked for anything. My eyes filled with tears as I continued reading. The nonprofit you think is struggling? I've been your anonymous donor for 5 years. The community center you're trying to save? I bought the building and put it in trust for your organization. The scholarship fund you started with your own savings? I've been matching every donation 10 to 1. You thought you were working with limited resources, but you were actually managing a multi-million-dollar operation. And you did it brilliantly. The room around me had erupted into chaos. Derek was on his feet, pacing and shouting about contesting the will. Vanessa was crying, her mascara creating dark streams down her cheeks. Aunt Patricia was demanding to speak to Mr. Mitchell privately. But I was still reading, discovering that every project I'd struggled to fund, every program I thought I was building from scratch, had been quietly supported by the woman who believed in me when no one else did. There's more, sweetheart. The family business. It's not just real estate anymore. Over the past decade, I've been converting our holdings into exactly the kind of sustainable development you've been advocating for. Affordable housing, community centers, green spaces. You didn't know it, but you've been consulting on these projects through your nonprofits partnerships. You've been helping me reshape the family legacy into something worthy of the Whitmore name. Mr. Mitchell was trying to restore order, but Derek was having none of it. This is fraud, he shouted. She manipulated a sick old woman. Careful, Derek, Mr. Mitchell warned. Mrs. Whitmore also included provisions for potential challenges to the will. That stopped him. What kind of provisions? Should anyone contest this will, their individual trust funds, yes, you all have modest trust funds, will be immediately donated to charity. Mrs. Whitmore specifically named Sophia's Community Development Foundation as the beneficiary. Vanessa stopped crying. She wouldn't dare. She absolutely would, I said quietly, still absorbing everything I'd learned. She always believed actions have consequences. I looked up at my family, my cousins who'd never seen me as anything more than an obligation, my aunt who'd spent years undermining me at every family gathering. She also believed in second chances. Second chances? Bradley scoffed. For what? I folded the letter carefully and stood up. Grandma Rose didn't just leave me money. She left me a responsibility. To you, to this family, to this community. I walked to the window, looking out at the city where I'd spent years working in neighborhoods my cousins had never even driven through. The community center you called my little hobby, Vanessa? It serves 3,000 families. The housing project you said was beneath the family name, Derek? It's become a model for sustainable urban development across the country. Derek was reading his letter now, his face going ashen. I continued. The rehabilitation center Bradley's been attending? Grandma funded that too. The medical bills for Madison's treatment? All covered. The credit card debts Vanessa thought no one knew about? Paid in full. One by one they realized what I was saying. Grandma Rose hadn't just been watching me build something meaningful. She'd been watching all of them self-destruct, and she'd been quietly cleaning up their messes. She knew everything, Madison whispered. Every mistake, every lie, every time we asked our parents for money instead of asking her directly. And she helped anyway, I said. Because that's what family does. Not the performance of family you all put on at Christmas dinner, but real family. The kind that shows up. Aunt Patricia finally spoke, her voice small. What happens now? I thought about the projects I could expand, the communities I could serve, the legacy I could build on the foundation Grandma Rose had secretly provided. But I also thought about the scared, lost people sitting around this table. People who'd been given everything except the tools to become who they could be. How we work, I said. The family business is becoming a community development enterprise. There are jobs for all of you if you want them. Real jobs with real responsibilities. Derek looked suspicious. What kind of jobs? Vanessa, you're good at organizing events. We need someone to coordinate community outreach programs. Bradley, you understand numbers when you're not gambling with them. We need a financial manager for our housing initiatives. Madison, you're studying psychology. We could use someone to develop mental health support programs. I looked at each of them carefully. Derek, you have a business degree you've never actually used. We need someone to manage our partnerships with local organizations. And if we say no? Aunt Patricia asked. Then you say no, I replied. The trust funds will support you comfortably. You can continue your lives exactly as they are. But the family legacy, the Whitmore name, goes in a different direction. Mr. Mitchell cleared his throat. There's one more thing. Mrs. Whitmore left a final video message, specifically for this moment. He pressed a button on his laptop and suddenly Grandma Rose was there on the conference room screen, sitting in her favorite garden chair, looking directly at us. Hello, my dear family, her recorded voice said. If you're watching this, then you've just learned what I've been planning for years. She looked directly into the camera, her eyes twinkling with the mischief I remembered from our afternoon conversations. Sophia, sweetheart, you've been managing my most important investments without even knowing it. Every program you've built, every community you've served, every life you've changed, that's been my greatest return on investment. She turned her attention to the others. Derek, Vanessa, Bradley, Madison, I love you all. But love means more than providing for you. It means helping you become who you're capable of being. Sophia has been showing you how to do that for years. Now it's time to pay attention. The video continued, but I was watching my cousins' faces. The shock was fading, replaced by something I'd never seen before. Recognition. Maybe even respect. The Whitmore family has always been about building things, Grandma Rose concluded. Now I want you to build something that matters. Together. The screen went dark. The room stayed quiet for a long moment. Finally, Vanessa spoke. The community outreach position. What would that actually involve? Planning events that bring resources to people who need them, I explained. Health fairs, job training workshops, educational programs. You'd be coordinating with local organizations, managing volunteers, creating real impact. She nodded slowly. I think I'd like to try that. Bradley raised his hand tentatively. The financial management position. Would there be oversight? I mean, given my history? Strict oversight, I confirmed. Monthly reviews, co-signature requirements, full transparency. But also training, mentorship, a chance to use your skills for something meaningful. One by one they began asking questions. Real questions about work, about responsibility, about being part of something larger than themselves. Derek was the last holdout. This is all very noble, Sophia, but let's be honest. You just inherited $50 million and you're offering us jobs. Some might call that patronizing. I smiled, thinking of all the afternoons Grandma Rose and I had discussed this exact scenario. Derek, the $50 million isn't a gift. It's a down payment. The real wealth is in what we can build together. I pulled out my laptop and opened a presentation I'd been working on for years, never knowing I had the resources to implement it. This is the Whitmore Community Initiative, I said, clicking through slides showing proposed developments, program structures, partnership networks. Affordable housing that's actually beautiful. Community centers that serve entire families. Job training programs that lead to real careers. Educational initiatives that break cycles of poverty. The slides showed detailed plans, architectural renderings, budget projections. Years of work I'd done in my spare time, dreaming of what could be possible with adequate funding. Grandma Rose didn't just leave me money, I continued. She left me the means to prove that business success and social impact aren't contradictory. That family wealth can be a force for actual good. Madison leaned forward, studying the mental health program slides. These support groups, they're based on the model that helped me. Grandma Rose suggested I research that approach, I admitted. She never said why, but now I understand. Aunt Patricia, who had remained silent through most of the discussion, finally spoke. Rose was always 3 steps ahead of everyone else. I should have known she'd find a way to save us all from ourselves. She looked at me with something approaching admiration. You've been planning this for years, haven't you? The real question is whether we're wise enough to follow your lead. Mr. Mitchell gathered his papers. The estate transition will take approximately 30 days to complete. During that time, you'll all have the opportunity to consider Mrs. Whitmore's final wishes and Ms. Martinez's proposals. As everyone prepared to leave, Derek approached me. For what it's worth, Sophia, I think Grandma Rose chose well. I hope you're prepared for what this means. Managing family money is complicated enough. Managing family expectations is nearly impossible. I know, I replied. But Grandma Rose didn't raise me to take the easy path. 6 months later, I stood in the lobby of the Whitmore Community Center, watching Vanessa coordinate a job fair that would connect 200 local residents with employment opportunities. Through the windows, I could see Bradley walking potential investors through our affordable housing development, his enthusiasm genuine and infectious. Madison had thrown herself into developing our mental health programs with the passion of someone who understood both the need and the solution. Even Derek had surprised everyone by becoming genuinely invested in our partnership networks, using his networking skills for something more meaningful than country club politics. The community center itself was everything I'd dreamed of: bright, welcoming spaces where families could access everything from childcare to legal assistance to job training. The Whitmore name was prominently displayed, but now it represented something worthy of the honor. My phone buzzed with a text from Derek. Board meeting went great. The city council approved our next 3 development sites. Grandma would be proud. As I walked through the center, greeting staff and community members, I thought about the letter Grandma Rose had left me. How she'd known that the real inheritance wasn't the money. It was the chance to transform what the Whitmore name meant in this city. The family still gathered for Sunday dinners, but the conversations had changed. Instead of gossip and complaints, we talked about projects and programs, about families we'd helped house and communities we'd helped strengthen. Aunt Patricia had even started volunteering in our literacy program, discovering a patience and kindness she'd forgotten she possessed. That evening, sitting in Grandma Rose's garden, now part of the community center's grounds, I opened the last page of her letter, the part I'd saved for when the work was truly underway. The money will run out eventually, sweetheart. Money always does. But what you're building, the relationships, the trust, the proof that business can be a force for good, that's permanent. That's a legacy worth the Whitmore name. I couldn't be prouder of the woman you've become, or more excited about the world you're going to create. All my love and faith, Grandma Rose. P.S. Check the greenhouse. There's one more surprise waiting. I walked to the small greenhouse at the edge of the garden, now used for the community center's urban farming program. Behind a shelf of tomato seedlings, I found a small safe with a note taped to it, for when you're ready to think even bigger. Inside was a business plan in Grandma Rose's handwriting, detailed proposals for expanding the Whitmore Community Initiative to 10 cities, complete with funding strategies and partnership agreements she'd already negotiated. Also in the safe was a photo of the 2 of us from my college graduation, both of us grinning in the garden. On the back she'd written, "The day I knew for certain you were ready to change the world." I smiled, tucking the photo into my jacket pocket. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Board meetings and budget reviews and the endless complexity of turning vision into reality. But tonight, surrounded by the sound of families enjoying the community space we'd built together, I felt the deep satisfaction of work that mattered. The Whitmore name would continue for generations, but now it would mean something worthy of Grandma Rose's faith. Not just old money and older prejudices, but active compassion and the courage to build something better. As I locked up the greenhouse and headed home to my apartment, still modest, still practical, but now by choice rather than necessity, I thought about the phone call I'd received that afternoon. Another city council, asking if the Whitmore Community Initiative model could work in their city. Change, it seemed, was spreading. One community, one family, one conversation at a time. Just as Grandma Rose had planned all along.